Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances to the personality of the Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Praesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. It's December 19th, 2020. We're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit. We're on Text 8 of Chapter 8 of Canto 2. Asit Yat Udarat Padmam Loka Samstana Lakshanam Yavan Ayam Vai Pusha Yata Avayavai Pritak Tavan Asau Iti Prokta Samsta Avayavavan Eva Asidyadudarat Padmam Loka Samstana Lakshanam Yavan Ayam Vai Pusha Iyata Vayavai Pritak Tavanasa Viti Prokta Samstavaya Bhavaniva Asidyadudarat Padmam Loka Samstana Lakshanam Yavan Ayam Vai Pusha Iyata Vayavai Pritak Tavan Asa Viti Prokta Samstavaya Bhavaniva
Asidyadudarat Padmam Loka Samstana Lakshanam Yavanayam Vai Purusha Iyata Vai Prita Tavanasa Viti Prokta Samstavaya Bhavaniva Asidyadudarat Padmam Loka Samstana Lakshanam
Yavanayam Vapusha
Yavanayam Vaipurusha
Iyata Vayavakrita
Iyata Vayavai Pritak
Tavamasa Vitipokta
Avanasa Vitiprokta
Samstavayam Vavaniva
Samstavaya Vavaniva
Asidya Rudarat Padmam
Asidya Rudarat Padmam
Loka Samstana Lakshanam
Lokasamstana Lakshanam
Yavanayam Vaipurusha
Yavanayam Vaipusha
Yatavaya Vaipritak
Yata Vaivai Pritak
Tavanasa Vitiprokta
Avanasa Viti Prokta
Samstavaya Vaivaniva
Samstavaya Vavaniva
Asidyad Udarat Padmam
Asidya Rudarat Padmam
Loka Samstana Lakshanam
Lokasamstana Lakshanam
Avanayam Vaipurusha
Yavanayam Vaipusha
Yatat Vayavai Pritah
Yata Vaivai Pritak
Avanasa Viti Prokta
Tavanasa Viti Prokta
Samstiha Vayavaniva
Samstavaya Bhavaniva. Asit. Asit. As it grew.
As it grew
Yat Udarat.
Yad Udarat
From whose abdomen.
from whose abdomen
Padmam.
Padmam
Lotus flower.
lotus flower
Loka.
Loka
World.
world
Samstana.
Samstana
Situation.
situation
Lakshanam.
Lakshanam
Possessed of.
possessed of
Yavan.
Yavan
As it were.
as it were
I am.
I am
This.
Is
By.
by
Certainly.
certainly
Pusha.
Yusha
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Supreme Personality of Godhead
Iyata.
Yata
Measurement.
measurement
Avayavai.
Vayavai
By embodiments.
by embodiment
Pritak.
Pritak
Different.
different
Tavan.
Bhagavan
So.
so
Asau.
so
That.
that
Iti Prokta.
Vitipokta
It is so said.
it is so said
Samspa.
Samsta
Situation.
situation
Avayavavan.
Avayavavan
Embodiment.
embodiment
Eva.
Eva
Like.
like
Translation. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of common living entities? Purport by His Divine Grace E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One should note how Maharaj Parikshit intelligently put questions before his spiritual master for scientific understanding of the transcendental body of the Lord. It has been described in many places before this that the Lord assumed a gigantic body like that of Karanodakashayi Vishnu, from whose hair pores innumerable universes have generated. The body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is described as sprouting the lotus stem within which all the planets of the universe remain. And at the top of the stem is the lotus flower on which Lord Brahma is born. In the creation of the material world, the Supreme Lord undoubtedly assumes a gigantic body. And living entities also get bodies, big or small, according to necessity. For example, an elephant gets a gigantic body according to its needs, and so also an ant gets its body according to its needs. Similarly, if the personality of Godhead assumes a gigantic body to accommodate the universes or the planets of a particular universe, there is no difference in the principle of assuming or accepting a particular type of body in terms of necessity. A living being and the Lord cannot be distinguished simply by the difference in the magnitude of the body. So the answer depends on the specific significance of the body of the Lord as distinguished from the body of the common living entity. Om Mirandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Text 8, Chapter 8, Canto 2, Srimad-Bhagavatam. Maharaj Parikshit speaking. Asidyadudarat Padmam Loka Samstana Lakshanam Yavan Ayam Vai Purusha Iyata Vayavai Pritak Tavanasa Viti Prokta Samstavaya Bhavaniva. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body, according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of the common living entities? Hare Krishna. So, this highlights the fact and principle of transcendental spiritual bodies. A key verse in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvata Chaktvideham Punarjanma Neti Mameti Swarjuna. That, and it's like if we have some grasp, some realization of the answer to Maharaj Parikshit's question, then Krishna says, then we go back to Godhead. Then we're released from material bondage if we understand the transcendental nature of the body, pastimes, appearance, disappearance. That's why technically we use terms like appearance and disappearance for Krishna, for his Vishnu Tattva, for his pure devotees, because their bodies are not material bodies. They're not the same sorts of bodies of like the common living being. And so Krishna says also in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Ajopi san avyayatmam bhutanam ishropi san pratiktim svam adishtaya sambhavam yatma mayaya. He says, although my transcendental body never deteriorates, so that right there, that's a qualitative difference between Krishna's body and our bodies. Okay. Our bodies are not transcendental, and in case we haven't noticed, they're subject to deterioration. No, if we just a little honest introspection, and we'll notice that. And so it says, although my transcendental body never deteriorates, and I am unborn, meaning that not forced to take birth. There's the appearance in the dungeon of Kamsa. That's not an ordinary birth. It's not a birth pushed by the modes of material nature. And although I am the Lord of all living entities, says Krishna, still I appear in every millennium, Sambhavam Yatmamaya. And so, all right, so that's different than, okay, so we are spirit souls, and due to desires other than serving Krishna with love and devotion, we enter into material bodies, which are subject to material birth, growth, dwindling, old age, like that. And then yam yam vapi sman bhavam tyajagante klevam tam tam eveti kantiya sadatad bhava bhavita. According to our consciousness, then at the time of the death of this particular, let's call it, framework of this karmic framework of this body, just depends how technical we want to get, right? Because at the time when this body dies, okay, technically speaking, this body's always dead. Okay, it's made of dead matter, and okay, but still, it's a way of speaking that this particular karmic framework comes to an end. Okay, then according to our consciousness, we're forced to take birth in another body according to the consciousness we develop. We get a particular, Bhagavad Gita is very specific. We get a particular type of nose, particular type of eyes and ears and tongue. Shariram yadavapnoti yachchat yukram ishram kritvetani samiti bayur gandani vashayat. That just as the air carries aromas, our subtle body carries the intention, the core intention of the consciousness from one body to another. I was hearing a lecture recently, this part of the lecture. Yeah, it was in Hawaii. Prabhupada's giving a talk, and this lecture it's been published in various places, this particular part. So Prabhupada was talking about this principle of yam yam vapi samandvavam, as the air carries aromas, and our consciousness goes from one body to the other, and because just that morning they'd taken a walk on the beach in Hawaii. So Prabhupada said, what are they called? What are they called? The sea? And then Prabhupada said, sufferers. And then the devotee said, surfers. But Prabhupada kept saying, sufferers. So they thought maybe Prabhupada wasn't hearing it, surfers, but Prabhupada was hearing. He goes, yes, they are sea sufferers. They are sea sufferers. So he understood that the word was surfers, but he kept saying, I call them sufferers. So we might think, suffering, but they're having so much fun. What Prabhupada was saying, no, so Prabhupada just used that as a very poignant example right there in Hawaii, that yes, so they are forming their body as fish. They are forming their body as fish. They want to go up and down. They need this board. Okay, so they are forming their body as fish. It's very clear. And so according to the consciousness we develop, we have particular consciousness. We do things, and we'll have a particular body. We have this particular body because of a consciousness we developed last lifetime. And so this is the distinction, a core distinction between the body of Krishna and these material bodies. At the same time, qualitatively, essentially, there's not a distinction. I mean, that's not what's focused on here, but it's important to realize that originally our body is spiritual. And that right now our spiritual body in material conditioned life, our spiritual is not manifest. It's not manifest. And then this process of bhakti yoga, it's really all about, it's a way we can put it, we can say it's about purifying the heart, it's about, like that. It's about manifesting our original, or you might say reviving our original spiritual body, our original spiritual body. Developing, like that original spiritual body, it eternally exists. It eternally exists. And that's really that spiritual intelligence to realize that, yes, I'm not this temporary body. I am eternal spirit soul. So why not revive my original eternal body? Because I'm an eternal being. That's spiritual intelligence. And so bhakti yoga is that, because we can think, I mean, there can be sometimes in a distracted way, it can be like, oh, what's my spiritual body? But that's, so just as like Prabhupada gives the example here of like the elephant and the ant. We have different elephant and ant analogies. Just like the elephant and the ant. So to perform particular functions, a spirit soul goes into the body of an elephant, or into the body of an ant, or into the body of a human being in a particular socioeconomic, cultural situation, in order to fulfill different functions. So spiritual body means, actually, it was a few days ago in the discussion, Malini was making this point, that spiritual body means the function is to serve Krishna. So we can think, oh, what's my spiritual body? But in a sense, that's not the point. The point is to develop the desire to serve Krishna. How do we serve Krishna? I don't know how to serve Krishna. I've made a point to alienate myself from Krishna. So Krishna accepts service through his pure devotee, through our current link to the Parampara Srila Prabhupada. So the point is to develop the desire to serve Krishna through Srila Prabhupada. And then by doing that, then our spiritual body manifests. Our spiritual body develops and is revived. It always exists, and right now it's dormant. It's covered. And that spiritual body is of the same transcendental nature as Krishna's body. Just like Krishna's name, Namo Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Binat Vam Namanamino. Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna. God's name is non-different from God. Same with Krishna's form. Same with Krishna's form and pastimes. And so that's us too. That's us too. And so, right. So it could be the mentality. We might not think about it, but the mentality is, well, why should I be interested to develop, revive, manifest a spiritual body that's made of eternality, cognizance, and bliss? I already got this body. I can. Yeah, exactly. I can bench press 40 pounds, and Yeah, right. Yeah, we can. Yeah, I can hit backhands and forehands. Yeah, I mean, not, so it's like it's kind of absurd, but that's the idea, and that's where like old age can be really helpful and supportive, because it gets harder and harder to be proud of this body. It just gets harder and harder. Even into 30 and 35, it's harder than at like 18 and 20. And yeah, so that's kind of the function. That's kind of the function of that. It gets harder and harder to be proud of this bag of stool and pus and blood and bones. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridatuke. Janeshva bigeshu saeva gokara. The kunape means it's like a bag. And there are some spiritual processes. There are some spiritual processes where that's really the focus. The focus is a sort of meditation to really help us understand we're not the body. And it's like a meditation. We won't get into details here, but are just the kind of gross, vulgar functions of this body and in its raw form, and to just create detachment. In a sense, like at least the Buddhist approach that Buddha actually taught. I'm no expert on what's happening in the name of Buddhism today. I know there's a lot of vipassana meditation and like that, but the idea of like the Buddhist approach is to really meditate on this bag of pus and stool, and we don't need to go into all the details. And to get, I'm not this body, and that's good. I mean, that's the approach to what the Buddha called nirvana, to realize I'm not this body. So that's helpful. It's truth. That's why even, you might say it's talking in a negative, but Srila Prabhupada does that a lot. We're not these bodies. We're not these bodies. Okay, that's good to get some realization of that. But then that's not complete, because I'm not these bodies. Well, who am I? I am spirit soul. I am spirit soul. It's described here about like the measurement of the body, the measurement of the elephant, the universe, the body of the ant. And it's described, anashino prameyasya, that actually the spirit soul in material terms is immeasurable. Even we describe it in terms of like 1/10,000th the size of the tip of the hair. That's like, well, if we could measure it materially, it would be like that. But even if we could measure something that small, still it wouldn't show up to material eyes. Atashri Krishna Namidi Nambhavet Gaya Mindra Seven Mukhi Jivita Svayameda Spirat Yada. With material senses, we're not going to perceive spirit, whether it's Krishna's body, our own body. And so this whole process of bhakti yoga, it's about revealing, reviving our original spiritual body. And we're like, I don't have realization about it, but basically we can experience even that, oh, okay, actually, I'm attracted to taste prashadam. And I'm not attracted to the sort of things I was attracted to when I was 20 years old. I was eating meat and so many things. I'm not, there's no austerity. And whatever emotions I'm going through, happiness, sadness, fear, resentment, nothing moves me to want to taste meat anymore. Okay, so, hey, that's something. It means I'm developing a spiritual tongue. That's what it means. I'm attracted to hear Prabhupada's lectures, and I'm less and less attracted to hear the sorts of things, well, I was listening to before I came to Krishna conscious. So I'm developing some spiritual ears. That's what it means in a very grounded sense. So then, okay, so we're not the body. That's a nice meditation. And then we're spirit soul. We're spirit soul. And then in a sense, that goes from like the Buddha to Shankaracharya. We are spirit. We're not just not the body. We are positively spirit. That's nice realization. That's nice realization too. That's nice realization. And even for those who are going for like an impersonal experience of enlightenment, it's important to understand that even to be successful there requires some bhakti. It requires Krishna to be pleased, and like yayatamam prapadyate tam tateva bhajamyam mama vartmanavartante manusha partha sarvasha. That the Krishna says, I reward everyone according to their path. So Krishna needs to be pleased, even with those who are aspiring for radical Advaitavad, realization of the oneness without variety. So success in any genuine spiritual path requires some bhakti. But actually, I was just reading a purport this morning where Prabhupada, he uses the number 99.9%. Prabhupada uses it in a purport. And he quotes the verse, Yene revindaksha vimukti maninas fayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhayo aruya kuchina pram padampata patant yido nadrita yushmadangre. And that describes how even those who achieve kind of like non-personal type of liberation, Prabhupada says 99.9% of them, they come back down to the material sphere because they don't have a taste for devotional service. They don't have a taste for bhakti. And so it's the nature of the soul to be, we're going to be active, we're going to be served. And our choice is to serve and be active either in the material realm or the spiritual realm. In the material realm, we get the sorts of bodies described here, like ant and elephant. And if we get active, our service propensity, active in the spiritual direction, then we get qualitatively the same sort of body as Vishnu and Krishna, like that. A body that's in a sense, that's not so much accurate language. It's not like we get, like here, I get this human body. We get the body of an ant, an elephant, a demigod. But it's more about manifesting, reviving our original spiritual body, which is intrinsically made of such Chidananda, Vigraha, eternity, cognizance, bliss. And so again, Prabhupada says sometime in a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, he says, one should be captivated by this information. It's practically insane to not be captivated by this information in this process. Because again, a body made of eternality, bliss, and cognizance in eternal loving relation with Krishna. Well, again, but I already got this body. What could be better? So it's kind of, that's insane, but that's how we're thinking. It must be how we're thinking if we're not like really gung-ho, really super enthusiastic about like enthusiastic, not necessarily in a rah-rah superfluous way, but enthusiastic from the core of our heart, from the core of our intention to engage in this process. So we're not the body, nice realization. We are spirit, nice realization. And that's not complete either. And then complete is, and spirit has activities. Because if we just stop at, I'm not the body, I am spirit, and we stop there, it's nice, and we might get some relief from material entanglement, but the soul has activities, and so our nature is to be active. This example Prabhupada often gives: if someone is in bed and convalescing, they're convalescing because they've been ill. So then, when we're convalescing, the activities are limited. Right? We can't work as hard or play as hard or socialize, right? And then when someone becomes cured to full health, then they just lay in bed all day and do nothing? No, then they resume. Then they resume their full activities with with full inspiration and full energy. So similarly, spirit takes a little humility. It takes some humility to get that, like, spiritually, I've allowed myself to become ill. I've allowed myself to become sick, diseased. Okay? So we go to the doctor, right? So Prabhupada is an expert physician. He'll sometimes say, Nirita Tarsha Upagiyamana Bhaval that so the prasadam's the diet for restoring our health, and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the medicine. And sometimes it's compared to like the disease of jaundice. If someone has jaundice, sweets taste bitter, but the cure for jaundice is to eat sweets. And as one restores health more and more, the sweets taste sweeter and sweeter. So the different aspects, processes, maybe austerities of bhakti yoga can feel a bit bitter to the extent that we're conditioned. And as we restore our spiritual health and revive and manifest our original spiritual body, then the whole process becomes sweeter and sweeter, something to really look forward to as we progress in stages of spiritual consciousness. Because sometimes it might feel bitter, but we get epiphanies and it's like, this is ecstasy, this is wonderful, and it's real. And so Krishna, Super Soul in the Heart, gives us those sometimes some real joyful states of consciousness to encourage us to be more rigorous and determined in practicing sadhana bhakti to advance in stages of consciousness, which is essentially more important. So the spirit soul has activities. Spirit soul has activities, and then when we're realizing and giving our lives to those activities of the spirit soul, then that's complete. It includes, I'm not the body, I'm not this bag of stool. It includes, I am spirit soul. It includes and transcends those conceptions. And so to engage in the activity of spirit soul, we might think, oh, that's what's like described in Krishna book with Mother Yashoda and the gopis, and well, that's true. And for us, practically, we want to hear those pastimes. They are transcendental, just like Krishna's body and Krishna's name are transcendental. His pastimes, his devotees are transcendental, and by that association, we cleanse our heart. Yes, we cleanse our heart by associating with those forms, those vibrations, those pastimes, those qualities. And we muddy our heart again when we associate with other forms, pastimes, qualities, etc. And practically in this world right now, here in, just looking around, North Florida, everyone here is in North Florida, so that's often not the case. But so here in North, what's that mean here in mid-December 2020, the activities of the soul? It means on a Saturday morning discussing Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's what the soul does. That's what the soul does. That's the original character of the soul. So we are maybe imperceptibly, but we are reviving our original spiritual body by discussing Srimad-Bhagavatam, by hearing Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, by chanting Hare Krishna Japa, by engaging in bhakti yoga in any of its forms under the guidance of the Parampara, under the guidance of our direct link to the Parampara, Srila Prabhupada. These are the activities of the soul, and that includes Brahman realization, super soul realization. And and so thankfully it's not all or nothing. It's a gradual process. Later today we have a Bhagavad Gita course, and we're studying the second part of chapter 2, the first verse there, Neha Bikramo Nashoste. It's the 40th verse of chapter 2. And one of the first verses that we'll be studying today. And they have Vikramanasaste Pratyabharana Vijite. Swapamapya Siddharma Satrite Mato Baya. That in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Svadharmata. That, that if we engage in Bhakti Yoga and we just do 1%, that's our eternal credit, benefit. We can start from 2% next lifetime. And so gradual process, and at the same time, Prabhupada's urging us, make this your last lifetime of forced material birth. He's urging us to get urgent, okay? Like Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, the Goswamis, Krishna, they're accepting us from where we're at and our level of sincerity and surrender or lack of it, full acceptance and encouragement for our bliss, for our highest good. Take your urgency to another level as you go into 2021. Take it to another level. Bring it to 100% actually, if you're inspired to do that. That's the encouragement that example Prabhupada often uses is like the example in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam of Bharat Maharaj, Maharaj Bharat. There's a few Bharats in the whole Vedic history. There's Bharat, brother of Lord Ramachandra. There's Bharat, who's like one of the ancestors of Krishna, and there's Bharat, son of Rishabhadev, and so. But anyhow, so he was a pure devotee, very high level pure devotee, and most or all of you know the story. And he gave up kingdom. He really had a lot to renounce, and he did it. And he was just in the forest meditating on Krishna, but out of affection and compassion, he saved the deer and started taking care of the deer. He got distracted, so Prabhupada used it, and then he took birth as a deer, and then in his next life he was Jad Bharat, and then he played the role of an Avadhuta to make sure no more distractions, and he gave sublime transcendental instructions to Maharaj Rahugana. But Prabhupada uses that as an example of even if we're at a really pure level, if we're a little inattentive, we can slide down the slippery slope into materialism and not even know that we've slid down the slippery slope. That's how Maya tends to work. So we're encouraged to be vigilant, rigorous, including surrounding ourselves with association who, in terminology we use, who cares enough about us to give honest feedback, to support us lovingly, to notice where we might have some slippery slope stuff happening here. Okay, so I'll read the verse again. It's text 8, chapter 8, canto 2, Srimad-Bhagavatam. Asijarudarat padmam lokasamstana lakshanam yavan ayam vaipusha yatha vaivai pritak tavana saviti prokta samstavaya bhavaniva. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of common living entities? Hare Krishna, thanks for listening. I welcome any comments or questions. Bhakta Len Cohen.
Yeah, thank you, David. So today, now, after your lecture, I've come to the realization that I am clearly insane.
Okay.
Totally insane.
Yeah.
Totally insane. I know the necessity of spiritual life. And, I've been insane for 54 years, and now I'm starting to become the process of getting treated by the doctor to get out of my insane condition. And I appreciate that analogy because
I congratulate you on your realization.
yeah, and don't be locking me up in a mental hospital yet, but I mean, yeah, it is insane for me not to give 100% in trying to have a body of Satchitananda Vigraya, you know? Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I'm still working on my forehands and my backhands. I get a lot of pleasure out of that, but I'm missing the true, the true bliss. And yeah, so that's one comment I would have. The second thing is, it's a question that many devotees, this idea of appearance and disappearance applies to your spiritual body, basically, but devotees always talk about on their birthdays, happy appearance day, happy disappearance day, even though many of our devotees are still covered, our spiritual bodies are still covered in materialism, yet we're still using appearance day, disappearance day. I was wondering if Prabhupada, what he would say about that. Is it okay for devotees to talk about themselves having an appearance day or disappearance day on their birthdays, or we're not quite we're not like the six Goswamis. We're not celebrating. We're celebrating their appearance day, their disappearance day. But how about for just the run-of-the-mill, mundane, garden variety devotee like me? It's my birthday. Is it offensive to say, oh, it's Len's appearance day?
Well, it depends who says it. So, as a general principle of humility, in referring to oneself, yeah, we wouldn't say my appearance day. I have come to bestow upon you mercy. And that's why in Einstein Hospital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in a snowstorm on December 3rd, 1960, I chose to appear. No. So referring to ourselves, we wouldn't use terms like appearance day, disappearance day. Right. So referring, that's clear. That's clear. But there's language and there's essence. Like even sometimes in regards to Krishna, Prabhupada will use the term birthday. So sometimes Bhakti, he'll use the term birthday. And we understand that Prabhupada's not meaning an ordinary material birth. But the more technical term is appearance day, because it's choice, it's lila, it's get to, there's no have to. Okay, and then, so in terms of ourself, like, yeah, even if someone is a transcendental pure devotee, out of humility, they would not refer to them as their own as an appearance day. Now, in regards to other devotees, well, maybe, yeah, we don't want to joke around about such things. But maybe if, out of humility and really a high regard for that Mataji or Prabhu, we might sincerely regard that, yeah, their appearance, and then whether it's objectively true is another question. So in regards to others, we don't want to use, yeah, I appreciate the question, because sometimes I think these things are too loosely with too much comedy bandied about such terms, but maybe sincerely, if we regarded another devotee with such high regard and we really do perceive them as giving their life completely to Prabhupada's mission, then we might use the term appearance day if it's sincere and sober.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Len.
I have your comments, but I just want to comment on what you just said now, because it seems like, let's say if I do regard someone with such a respect, to think about appearance mean like, even if they took a birth that was a material birth, because that birth really means so much for me. Because without that person, I will not be where I am at, or because of that person, I've gotten spiritual knowledge or spiritual guidance. Then to regard that birth as appearance makes sense, regardless if it's true or not true. But because for me, that this person appeared at that time on Earth made such a big difference.
Thanks for that. I appreciate and resonate with that point. Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, and connected or not with that, like when we speak about spiritual body, it seems that our, like the material mind want to like make it close on it, that it's one material body. And at the same time, if we look at the six Goswami or any, Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, the Parampara, they all have spiritual bodies.
Yeah.
And in the Nectar of Instruction, it said, like, it's really a big offense to criticize, materially, to criticize the body of a pure devotee, because it is material. So it is spiritual. So a spiritual body can manifest like Srila Prabhupada as an old man with glasses and all that. And he didn't need to manifest himself in that form. But that's a spiritual form, like the six Goswami also. It's a spiritual body. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his specific body is a spiritual body. I just read the pastime of Jagannath Das Babaji. He lived until 145 years old, something like that. And so also he manifested himself but he wasn't limited by that body, but he manifested himself in that body. So a spiritual body is not necessarily like a copies or a peacock or anything like that. There are so many types, and when reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is also souls. Even in the spiritual world, they have two different forms. Like I think, Ananga Manjari and Balaram are the same or something like that. Anyway, there is many who have two forms. And so I just want to point out that means that this body can be also spiritualized. Like if we are fully surrendered to Krishna and we are 100% an instrument of Krishna, then Krishna at that time used the body, and then it's a manifestation of a body for a certain purpose.
Yeah, thanks for that, Melanie. Yeah, in what I spoke, I talked about spiritual bodies, material bodies, and that's, I think, consistent with Prabhupada's language in this purport. But definitely it's true. There are nuances, subtleties, complexities, different types. And so, it's not black or white. It's like that. And even if we read get into some details about the type of body Arjuna had, it gets complex. And then sometimes Prabhupada uses the example of gold plated, right? Like there's gold, but then if something is gold plated, it has like the same effect as gold. And so when we ihayasya harerdasya karmana manasagira ikilsvabhyavasta sujivan mukta suchite, and that's Rupa Goswami describes that, as you're saying, if we use this body, this mind, these arms, these eyes, these ears in devotional service, then this body becomes spiritualized more or less in a gold-plated way, in a gold-plated way. But then it's not that simple either. It's not just spiritual, material, or gold-plated. There's other nuances too. So it's kind of complex topic, very fascinating topic. Yeah, and as you're referencing Nectar of Instruction, there's a well-known verse that to regard the body of the true spiritual master, the pure devotee, as material is it's really risky for our spiritual life to do that. And you gave the example. It could be like an apparently old man wearing glasses or whatever, and the example is given like the Ganges is always pure. It might seem like there's some foam that's not pure, but the Ganges water is always pure. And so similarly, the body of a pure devotee might appear to our mundane vision to have this defect or that defect, but that's just our filters.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then there is a part of the purpose that I want to hear more from you, how you understand it. That's at the very end. He said, a living being and the Lord cannot be distinguished simply by the difference of the magnitude of the body. So that's clear that it's not, the Lord can be the smallest of the smallest and the biggest of the biggest. So that doesn't determine. But then the next one, so the answer depends on the specific significance of the body of the Lord as distinguished from the body of the common living beings. I'm not sure I get what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. So there is a purpose for the body of the Lord, but as distinguished from the body of the common living being. Yeah. How do you understand that last sentence?
Yeah, it's interesting language from Prabhupada, and certainly not saying I'm sure that I understand Prabhupada's mind there. Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra, the mind of a Vaishnava is difficult to penetrate, and it's interesting language. So my understanding, significance, I think it's related to kind of what we discussed, that Krishna's body, Vishnu's body, the body of pure devotee, the significance is they're choosing to appear for transcendental mission and for the common living entity. We're forced to take birth. We're forced to take birth to fulfill some insane material desires. I think the prison warden metaphor works here, right? So maybe it doesn't work completely, but to give some idea. So like the common living entity, that's the prisoners in the prison, okay, and their existence in the prison has particular, the significance is you committed a crime and that's why you're here and you're forced to be here. Whereas the warden or the governor might choose to visit the prison, but their presence in the prison has a completely different meaning. And from ordinary vision, we might say, well, there's someone who's 5'10" in this body shape in the prison, and there's someone who's 5'10", slightly different body shape. So it's the same, but no, that's ignorant. So if the warden or the governor visits a prison, the significance is this is a mercy mission for the prisoners, and the warden and the governor can come and go as they please. It's a completely different significance. It's a completely different import. And so that's what's coming to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have more questions, but I will give space for others. Thank you.
Okay, well, should we hear Malini's next question or other comments and questions from others? Either way, it's all transcendental fun. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, back to George.
Hare Krishna, David. So Prabhupada has said that Jesus Christ had a spiritual body. In one of the lectures or discussions I read about him when I prepared for class in Easter last year. And oftentimes I've heard in discussions that, Jesus' spiritual body, so after he resurrected, is the reason that some people follow Jesus because claiming that no one else has ever demonstrated. Because I looked at what manifest meant when you were sharing it, and it's to demonstrate or show through action or appearance. And I thought that was very poignant to kind of, as we act and we do, then we manifest our spiritual body. So I thought that was very interesting. But do you know if Prabhupada mentions anything regarding that as far as like anyone else manifesting a spiritual body? it seems like from my experience, the moment of death, from having had it, contact with it with two individuals recently, it seems very similar to all the drawings that we have, even in that painting of like with the infinity and like death and life and the baby going up. And that moment of death, it seems like just depicted in that last like image is very similar to everyone. So at least to my material eyes, like I could see credence like, oh yeah, like I don't know that anyone has material or whatever in history other than Jesus Christ has manifested like a visible spiritual body, you know, to be seen that way. So I don't know if you know any kind of comment or sharing with Prabhupada that he mentions people manifesting spiritual bodies to be seen to material eyes.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that place where Prabhupada says that Jesus' body is spiritual, and I understand that just like all the Goswamis, the pure, all the pure devotees, their bodies are spiritual. And then when are you talking about like the resurrection, when Jesus resurrected and then he appeared to his disciples? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, where he showed like the wound from the spear of the Roman soldier or whatever, and then when he like elevated it up after, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's a distinctive pastime, and you know, I don't know so many details about that pastime, and so there's nothing like exactly like that in form. But there are things like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He would be in one place, and then he would appear where Lord Nityananda and Raghunath Das Goswami were doing kirtan. He would appear at Prasad festivals. There's things like that. There's Bhaktisiddhanta appearing in Prabhupada's dreams. So there's different sorts of appearances that would be, you know, out of our ordinary paradigm. Call it spiritual, mystical. There's we could come up. Yeah, there's well, with Sri Chaitanya, there's a lot of that. After he took sannyasa, went to Jagannath Puri, he would appear to his mother sometimes, and he appeared to Nishingananda Brahmachari. So there's a lot of that in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, George. Any other comments or questions? Sarah. I think you're on mute. I see your hands raised. That's why I called your name. Yeah, there we go. That should work now. Now it looks like you're off mute, but I'm not hearing you still. Not quite sure what's happening. Now I'm not hearing you, but it looks like you're off mute. Maybe it's a volume thing. Now it looks like you're on mute again. You're not sure. Okay. You wanna type on chat? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
David, do you see the chat from Sarah?
I don't see a chat. Is it? Do you see a chat? Here we go. I'd like Glenn to clarify if he's been working on his forehand or his four hands. Oh, okay, there's.
And there is something before that. It's wondering about connection of sattva to transcendent in terms of achieving a spiritual destination body. And then that's I like Len. It's from Gajendra Gary.
Oh, I see.
It seems Sarah wrote that to me. So
Okay.
I can copy it and send it to everyone, Sarah.
Could you?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. Okay. Connection of sattva to transcendence in terms of achieving a spiritual destination body. Thanks for that question. Yeah. So sattva is closer to transcendence than rajas and tamas. So to the extent that our thoughts, worldviews, actions, words are in sattva, then we're getting closer. We're getting closer to transcendence. So that's a basic principle. Sattva, generally speaking, it's just the cleanest, best platform from which to choose transcendence. It's not absolute, because there's also the sattva trap. In sattva, I can notice, hey, I'm pretty much happier than others. I'm doing better. Yes, I'm doing better than others. And so we might become complacent. And sometimes in rajas or tamas, we have some glimpse of awareness of how much we're suffering, and we call out to Krishna. But generally speaking, sattva's, it's the best platform from which to choose transcendence. You're probably familiar with the airport analogy, right? The airport represents sattva. And if I go to the Jacksonville airport, yeah, it's definitely it's the best platform from which to go to New York. But if I stay at the airport complacently and don't get on the plane, I'm really no closer to New York than I was at my home in Alachua. So sattva is close. It's getting close to the soul. It's good and getting close to the soul proper compared to rajas and tamas. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, close, but still material. That is correct. Still material, but getting close. Yes, yeah, okay. Okay, other analogies. Let's say, okay, so like our clothes have shape, arms and legs, because this body, material body, has shape, but it's an analogy, right? So, okay, so I could put on a coat. I could put on a glove. And then on top of the coat, I could put just like a heavy Eskimo coat. And on top of the glove, I could put just like this heavy winter mitten. Okay, and then, okay, so then, all right, so the thick kind of gross layer, and the more layers we get, the harder it is to just even look at what's the shape of the body here. And so those kind of really rough layers, that's like the coverings of tamas and rajas. But as we take off layers and then maybe just get to a thin shirt, okay, then that's like sattva. Like we're not at the body yet, but yeah, okay, we can really see the shape of the body with the thin shirt compared to, we got 12 layers on. More choice, more freedom to be of service. Yes, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, sattva means expanded range of choice. Rajas and tamas, we might think we're free, but we are in solitary confinement, maximum security prison. The lower we go in the modes, we go into animal life, plant life, practically no choice. And so to the extent that we're entangled ourselves in rajas, tamas, then it's like a maximum security prison. Sattva is expanded range of choice, expanded possibility to choose service. Yes, yeah, and so much, and we call our institute and program Sattva Tov. And it's about supporting everyone to self-awareness, experience my experience. That means sattva. I'm not ignorant. I'm not dull to my experience. So we're creating sacred space for the spirit soul to come to sattva. And then in that space, sattva means expanded range of choice. Oh, I don't need to just react with roadblocks and survival strategies in this relationship. I've got expanded range of choice. Yeah, uncovering our free will, and then the choice that is sane and intelligent is to choose devotional service to manifest our original spiritual body. Hare Krishna. Gajendra.
The mode of goodness is an interesting subject. And, I look at it from a couple different viewpoints. There's, of course, just the idea that there's three modes of material nature of a different quality. Like different foodstuffs, for example, have the different qualities of the modes of nature, what we eat, how that might affect us in terms of those qualities. I won't get into it. And then there's that idea of, there's goodness, material mode of goodness, and then there's sometimes what's considered pure goodness, which it means it's sort of unaffected. Like someone can be in pure goodness and interact with substances that might be associated with passion and ignorance, but they remain uncontaminated. So that pure goodness is more a quality of the soul rather than something associated with material nature. And then there's a view that I have that makes sense to me. I'm not sure how it stacks up, philosophically. But it has to do with the mode of goodness as being in a place of proper balance or assertiveness. And I look at that because I think of like, if you have, I often like the example someone once gave me, about a balanced man being a good king. If he goes off one way, he becomes a tyrant. If he goes off the other way, he abdicates the throne. And I've always sort of related that to where actually, the mode of goodness is that balanced, clear state. And the mode of passion has this energy that could sort of take you into being a tyrant and you're caught up. And the mode of ignorance is kind of like abdicating the throne. I'm just going to drink this from this bottle of alcohol and just try to avoid dealing with these things. And I look at it that way because I notice that when you have like goodness, passion, and ignorance, it doesn't really correspond to an energy level where like goodness is super powerful, hyped up on the material plane, and passion is, pretty got some energy, but not quite. And it doesn't really correspond to energy levels. It corresponds more to a clear, balanced state.
I appreciate very much what you shared. It's consistent with my understanding of Prabhupada's teachings. Sattva, it's the mode of balance. Even in terms of communication, we talk about assertive communication. It's sattvic. Assertive communication is communicating my truth boldly and powerfully, and simultaneously in a way that's intended to create win-win, in a way that's not intended to damage or hurt. It's true and it's intended to be beneficial, whereas Rajasa communication might be true, I'm in your face with the truth, but I'm just trying to hurt you because I feel hurt by you. Tamasic could be I'm running away, I'm in shadows, like that. So yeah, sattva is moving towards balance. I really like the king analogy that I imagine I'll borrow that. Yeah, and then the spiritual bodies are made of Shuddha Sattva. That's one way to say it, made of pure goodness. And yeah, sattva as Sarah was expressing, sattva means choice, that we're it's not imbalanced. We're able to choose any state of being according to what's my purpose, according to what's my service. So sattva has balance. That rings completely true. And when we're balanced, or at least moving towards balance consistently, then we're on contract. We feel secure, happy, peaceful, energized, enthused, loving, free, joyful, playful, clear. I know when I developed the Vedic personality inventory, the way I described the intention of the research was to establish an empirical basis for happiness. And that means that the Vedic assertions and the assertions of our research was that to the extent that one cultivates sattvic actions, habits, worldviews, that will correlate with an inner sense of balance, with the balance within. It'll correlate with security, fulfillment, peace. So sattva is balance. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Empirical, looking at material happiness. Only in the study, mean material happiness as opposed to spiritual happiness? Yes. Well, we didn't make that distinction so much in that research. We used self-rate. That would be an indication for exciting further research to make those distinctions, because it's very accurate point, because there's happiness in the mode of ignorance. There's happiness in passion. There's happiness in goodness, and happiness transcendentally. Yes. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai.
I just wanted to say, happiness in the mode of ignorance is not described as happiness, isn't it?
Oh, wait.
In the Bhagavad Gita, it kind of describes happiness in the mode of ignorance. It's bitter at the beginning, bitter at the end.
Right. True. Complete. It's not happiness,
No.
but still, it's the word happiness is used.
Yeah. Illusion of happiness.
It's the illusion of happiness. Yeah, it's the illusion of happiness. So in a technical sense, happiness would not be the true term, but we can say, I got smashed last night. I drank so much I couldn't remember anything. I was so happy. So it's still understood in that way. Those terms are used. In one sense, any sort of happiness other than spiritual bliss is not real happiness.
Mm-hmm.
But still, Prabhupada uses those terms.
Yeah. Before you end the call, I just want to make an announcement that at 12 we have our Bhagavad Gita class at Dear Govinda's house and online. And then at 6:30 this evening, there is also a program, an enlightenment program at Dear Govinda at 6:30 in person and online.
Okay. And the 6:30, that's open to everyone. Please be there. The Bhagavad Gita course are those who are registered for the course.
Anyone who have taken the foundational course can register for the Bhagavad Gita class.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Let's see. I saw a chat here from, yes, Gajendra wrote, so mitigation of suffering. Thanks for that. Yeah, could be material happiness, happiness in ignorance. My suffering was mitigated. Of course, it becomes worse when when the stupor wears off. Jai Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.